So right now we have the error is shown up as we expect, and we even have the message down here. Good job, that's perfect. But I want to kind of extend my code a bit because I want to figure out how we can make a few functions in our TypeScript code. Since we're using reactive forms, we can actually start working with functions with these ngF statements. And then I want to use a function to kind of figure out if the email has an error, right? So if this field has the error of required, I want to do something specific. And I also want to make a function so that I don't have to write an and sign in here and figure out if it has this but it does not have this, then do something, right? So we're going to try and make a function in the TypeScript code to try and figure this out. So let's start out by making the function. Now I'm going to call the function fc for form control in the TypeScript file right here, and then I'm going to call it fc error. So it's just testing for form control errors. That's kind of the idea with the name. So first of all, I'm going to pass in as a parameter the actual name of the form control. That could, for instance, be email, right? That could be the name of the form control. And then I'm going to pass in the error that we are trying to figure out if the email form control contains right now. So we are also going to pass in an error right here, also of the type string, right? There we go. Now I want to, when I'm done, actually return a value to the ngF statement if I want to show it or not, and that's going to be a Boolean value, of course. So if I send back true, I'm going to show the error. If I send back false, I'm going to hide the error. That's the goal right here. So now we have that available. Now how do we do this? Well, we're going to call the exact same statement that we have in here. We need to kind of, let me just copy this statement actually for now, just to show you guys that it's the exact same statement that I have right here I'm going to use inside the error control. So I'm going to return sign up form. Now I need to put the this keyword because it's actually inside this class. This sign up form right here, I'm going to get not the email field, but I'm actually going to get the FC, meaning that I can put anything in here, but right now it's going to be with the email. And I'm going to look for a specific code, not the required code, but any error code that we have coming out from the outside. We can also call it EC for error code, if that makes more sense. And that's pretty much all I have to do. Now I have a reusable function where I pass in the function, the form control and the error code, and then it returns true or false. So let's try and use it now. So instead of this, I'll write FC, right, for the name of FC error actually, FC error for the name of the function I built. And then I'll write that I'm going to check the email form control, that's the name of the form control, and I'm going to check if it has the required error available, right? Required, like this. So I'm pretty much taking this line right here and shortening it down a bit. And since this is still not that complex, I could make a lot of other things in this, but this is just to give you kind of an idea about how easy it is to kind of, with this reactive setup right here, to kind of go in and change the way that we work with these forms right here. Let me save this for now, and let me just try and see if this worked. So it should still show the error, right? There we go, email required, and when I start typing, it moves to email invalid. Sweet. So that pretty much means that now I can copy this guy and I can say not down here, and I can also say that we actually want to test here for the email. Okay, that's good. So that was step one. Step one out of the way. Now I've made it easier at least to do the same validations, right? Now I've made it easier. But I want to do even better. I want to make something even better than this. I want to also be able to say, instead of having the and sign right here, I want to be able to say, you need to check this, but before you even decide if you want to show this, you need to kind of pre-validate and say if any of the ones required or any other inside this array are already available, don't show this error anyway. So I'm going to make a pre-request right here, just going in and saying if there's something in the last field right in the last parameter right here, if there's something in here, you have to test that first. And if that is there, you're not allowed to show this error either, because this is kind of this is the highest priority, and then I will show up, right? Then we could add an entire priority list saying first the required, comma, then something else, comma, then something else. That's kind of the goal. Let's try and change that inside our code right here. So it pretty much just means that I can right here pass in another parameter, and let's just call it pre for pre-required information, right? And let's just call this a string array, because that's what I want to be able to pass in. String array like this. So now we kind of have this pre-required thing that we can kind of use if it's available. So what we'll do is we'll start out by just testing if there is actually something here, right? If it's there and the pre-required actually has a length above 0, or else I don't really care. So let me just put that validation in there as well. So if there is actually a pre-required list like we actually passing in right here, and it's actually has more than one value in it, then I want to do something. Now what do I want to do? Well, I want to run over this list, and I'll just use a for loop, and I'll just make it simple. We have I value right here, and that's going to be equal to 0 in the beginning. Then we're going to do a check if I is less than the length. As long as that happens, just a good old basic for loop right here. And then we can do I++ right here to kind of say we want to go to the next one. So now we have a for loop that kind of runs over each of the pre-required or the pre-validations that I have before I even want to figure out if I want to actually check this error. And then what we can do is we can say with these set of pre-required validations, we can just go in and call this function right here and say if that our beautiful sign-up form actually has the error in position I, right? So if that error exists, then we should actually go down and say we want to return false. We do not want to show the warning if at any point some of my pre-required errors, they are actually available. Do not show the actual error in the HTML. Now this is just one way of doing it. There's a lot of other ways you can do the same thing. But I just want to show you again the power that we can actually start adding some pretty cool things in here. Let's just try and see if it worked. There we go, it only shows email required. Now it shows email is invalid, so it still works. That's perfect. So now we can pretty much just start adding these errors to the other areas. You can do that yourself. I'll try and prepare it for the next lesson. So see you next time. Have fun.